News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Death sentences of 8 Indians commuted by a Qatari court in the Doordarshan global case. Detailed judgment awaited. India and Russia signed protocol on consultations for the next 4 years. The Russian President Vladimir Putin invites the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Russia. US allies reluctant to join the Red Sea Alliance. EU signals support, but Italy and Spain appear to distance themselves from the task force. Mexico and the US agree to keep border crossings, rail crossings open and normalize the situation. The manifesto of the ruling Awami League in Bangladesh looks to continue good relations with its neighbors and to not allow its soil to be used by separatists or terrorist elements against them. Relations between India and Bangladesh have grown steadily since 2009 when the Awami League government took power, and they have been in power since then, being re-elected in 2014 and 2018. Here's a perspective.
The ruling Awami League in Bangladesh released its manifesto for the upcoming general elections to be held on the 7th of January 2024. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been in power continuously since January 2009, having been re-elected in 2014 and in 2018. During this time, relations between India and Bangladesh have grown steadily. India and Bangladesh are close strategic partners in counter-terrorism. In the manifesto, the Awami League has professed to continue its friendship to all, malice towards none policy. If elected, the party promises to continue cooperation with neighbouring countries in areas including cross-border communication, transit, energy partnership and equitable water sharing. The other aspect of the manifesto is its firm stand against terrorism. It is firmly determined to prevent the presence of militants, international terrorists and separatist groups on its territory. The Awami League government will play an important role in forming the South Asia Task Force to combat terrorism and militancy to root it out from the entire region. Bangladesh is India's biggest trade partner in South Asia, and India is the second biggest trade partner for Bangladesh in Asia. Trade volumes have more than tripled in the last 10 years. Sharing an over 4,000-kilometer border with India, connectivity through and within Bangladesh is important for India's northeastern states. There are 5 renovated rail links between India and Bangladesh which have helped sub-regional connectivity of freight from Bangladesh to Nepal and Bhutan. The Maitri Express, Bandhan Express and Mitali Express operate between India and Bangladesh. Greater modernization of border infrastructure, cross-border connectivity was facilitated with the integrated checkpost Petropol since 2021. There are close to 100 flights operating weekly between India and Bangladesh from major cities in India, connecting them to Dhaka and Chittagong. India has extended 3 lines of credit to Bangladesh in the last 8 years of $8 billion for development of its infrastructure. The government of India has been providing training to Bangladesh government officials across civil and judicial services at various premier training institutes in India. The 2 prime ministers inaugurated the India-Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline in March 2023. The pipeline has a capacity to transport 1 million metric ton per annum of high-speed diesel. In May 2023, a total of 16 transit routes had been declared allowing cargo transportation from Chattogram or Mogla port, through which landlocked Assam, Meghalaya and Tripura states in northeast India can access open water routes. In November 2023, India and Bangladesh inaugurated a historic rail link connecting Akhora in Bangladesh to Agartala in India's northeastern state of Tripura. Trains can now traverse directly from Kolkata to Agartala via Bangladesh. India and Bangladesh have a shared history, heritage and future. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Court of Appeals of Qatar has commuted the death sentence of 8 Indians in the Doordarshan global case. While the detailed judgment is awaited, the Ministry of External Affairs is in touch with the families and the legal teams on the matter. India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar held talks with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Wednesday. The discussions were held in in a good atmosphere on a wide range of issues, which included the Ukraine conflict.
With an aim to take the Russia-India partnership to new heights, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Wednesday. During the meeting, President Putin invited India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Russia, saying it will give both countries an opportunity to discuss all current issues and also explore the scope of future bilateral ties.
We will be glad to see our friend Mr. Prime Minister Modi in Russia. We will be able to discuss all current issues and talk about the prospects for the development of Russian-Indian relations. We have a lot of work to do, so I ask you to convey to him my best wishes and please pass on our invitation. We are waiting for him in Russia.
As soon as the meeting began, the Russian president highlighted Prime Minister Narendra Modi's willingness to do his best to resolve the Ukraine crisis peacefully.
We know the position of Prime Minister Modi and we have spoken about this more than once. His position regarding his attitude towards complex processes, including flashpoint areas and the situation in Ukraine.
In his remarks, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar conveyed the warm greetings of Prime Minister Modi and handed over a personal message to President Putin.
First of all, please allow me to convey the personal greetings of Prime Minister Modi. He has also, through me, sent a letter to you, a letter expressing his thoughts about the state of our cooperation and the progress that we have made in recent days, and I will have the honor to give you the letter. Certainly, Mr. President, he looks forward to visiting Russia next year.
External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, who is on a 5-day visit to Russia, also had a comprehensive and a productive meeting with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, on Wednesday. As strategic partners, discussions were also held on international situations and contemporary issues, including defense partnerships. With Anita Raj, Amit Mukherjee for DD India.
Thursday is day 673 of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Thousands have died and millions have been displaced. But the fighting rages on. Both Russian and Ukrainian armies continue to exchange fire, with each claiming to have hit the other's military targets.
One of the global flashpoints, which is the Russia-Ukraine crisis, is causing casualties and infrastructural damage of unprecedented proportions on both the sides. The Russian and Ukrainian armies continue to exchange fire, with each claiming hitting the other's military targets. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported in a briefing that its forces have repelled multiple attacks by the Ukrainian army, destroying Ukrainian artillery systems and armored vehicles. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Air Force carried out airstrikes on Russian soldiers and equipment, and its rocket forces hit Russian ammunition depots and a command post. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Thursday that Russia is determined to achieve its objectives in its military operations in Ukraine, and the West's effort to inflict a geopolitical defeat on Russia has completely failed.
We are getting ready for all of the goals that have been set to be implemented. The demilitarization and the denazification. We cannot avoid it. We are actively working with the developing countries, especially in the context of that the West is really changing its tactics, maybe even thinking of clarification of strategy, because if the strategy was the strategic defeat of Russia, then this strategy has completely failed. It is now clear to everyone.
Nearly 2 years into Russia-Ukraine war, Moscow controls about 17.5% of Ukrainian territory, and a Ukrainian counteroffensive this year has failed to win any major territorial gains against Russian forces. Rahul Upadhyay's report, DD India.
Well, India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, also interacted with Indologists at the St. Petersburg State University during a roundtable discussion, and he talked about the time-tested India-Russian relations.
This interest today is particularly pertinent, it's particularly important because in today's world, a country like India and one like Russia, we are constantly trying to refresh our relationship, to deepen it, to find new linkages and common points.
Israel is expanding its ground offensive into Gaza after issuing a warning that the war with Hamas will last for months. Heavy fighting is always continuing there for the last, many days, and the southern city of Khan Yunis. But fighting between the Israeli army and the Hezbollah is intensifying. And on Thursday, the Israelis have claimed to have shot down a drone that had crossed into the territory from Lebanon.
The ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas is not seeing any end, as Israel has expanded its ground offensive into Gaza after issuing a warning that the war will end only after Hamas is eliminated. Heavy fighting is also continuing in the southern city of Khan Yunis. Israeli military are working around Al-Bureij and Khan Yunis, which they described as terror base for Hamas.
In the south, we are working in several areas of Gaza. One is called Al-Bureij. It is an area in the central refugee camps. We are on the third day of attack there, and we are killing many terrorists and destroying terror infrastructure.
Amidst the ongoing conflict, fighting between the Israeli army and Hezbollah is also intensifying. On Thursday, Israel claimed it shot down a drone that had crossed into its territory from Lebanon. Israel's emergency minister Benny Gantz on Wednesday warned Lebanon to stop Hezbollah attacks on northern Israel.
The situation on Israel's northern border demands change. The stopwatch for a diplomatic solution is running out. If the world and the Lebanese government don't act in order to prevent the firing on Israel's northern residents and to distance Hezbollah from the border, the IDF will do it.
Meanwhile, Israel has blamed Hamas and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees for preventing humanitarian aid from reaching people in Gaza.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Tension builds up between North and South Korea once again. OpenAI is taken to court for copyright infringement. We chat to the IMD about, the myriad concerns regarding the weather.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no? Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analyzing.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
You're watching DD India News Hour. My name is Mark Lin. Now, tension has been building up between North and South Korea once again. This is after the North Korean President Kim Jong-un had ordered his military to be ready for a war. Syed Abzarul Hassan has given us this report on the heightening tensions in the Korean Peninsula.
Tension escalates once again between North Korea and South Korea after Kim Jong-un ordered its military to be ready for the war. On one hand, Kim has asked his military, the munitions industry and the nuclear weapons sector to accelerate war preparations to counter what it calls unprecedented confrontational moves by the US. Speaking on the policy directions for the new year at a key meeting of the country's ruling party, Kim also said Pyongyang would expand its strategic cooperation with anti-imperialistic independent countries. On the other hand, Washington has accused Pyongyang of supplying military equipment to Moscow for use in its war with Ukraine, while Russia provides technical support to help the North Korea advance its military capabilities. South Korea President Yoon Suk-yeol visited a frontline military unit in the eastern country of the Yeocheon to inspect its defense posture and call for an immediate retaliation if there was any provocation from North Korea. More than 1,000 South Korean military, police and emergency personnel joined rare defense drill that simulated an attack by the North Korea on Seoul to allay fear that the city is in a striking defense of Pyongyang's weapon or a covert attack.
We will further strengthen the integrated defense posture to protect the lives and safety of our people from North Korea's provocation and threats by terror by sharing and developing the security matters identified during the drill.
Tension has rekindled in recent weeks after North Korea tested its newest intercontinental ballistic missile, which it said was aimed at gauging the war readiness of its nuclear forces against mounting US hostility. Kim also said last week that Pyongyang would not hesitate to launch a nuclear attack if provoked. The United States, South Korea and Japan have condemned the missile test and activated a system to detect and assess North Korea's missile launches in real time.
South Korea, the United States and Japan have officially launched real-time sharing of the North Korean missile alert system today and jointly formulated a multi-year trilateral training schedule. The three countries will continually strengthen the trilateral cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region, encompassing the Korean Peninsula and beyond, to ensure peace and stability.
Recently, South Korea imposed sanctions on 8 North Koreans linked to nuclear and missile development through arms trade, cyber attacks and other illicit activities. South Korea has also blacklisted 83 individuals and 53 entities related to North Korea's weapons programs since October 2022. The US and its treaty allies, Japan and South Korea, have increased military coordination to tackle increasing assertive China in the Indo-Pacific. Beijing's relation with its 2 East Asia neighbors have also been strained in recent years. But the China, Japan, South Korea foreign ministers meeting last month offered a fresh opportunity to repair ties, with an aim to refocus on economic cooperation. Kim's comments suggest North Korea is unlikely to slow the pace of its weapons test and military modernization. Some analysts believe he aims to build leverage towards diplomacy with Washington, possibly after the US presidential elections in November this year. Syed Absarul Hassan reporting for DD India.
China has said that it's not going to turn a blind eye to repeated provocations and harassment by the Philippines as tensions rise between the two countries over the South China Sea. China's defense military spokesperson Wu Qian said that China's Coast Guard had taken various enforcement measures. He also called the accusations made by the Philippines as purely false hype and said that the Philippines insisted on sending vessels to intrude into the waters. Earlier this month, the Philippines accused China of repeatedly firing water cannons at its resupply boats. On Wednesday, the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and the Philippines Foreign Secretary Enrique Manolo, they discussed the ongoing tensions between China and the Philippines. China has accused Taiwan of deliberately hyping the military threat. This is from Beijing for electoral gains ahead of the elections on the island in January. The Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson Wu Qian also said that Taiwan's government was to blame for tensions.
The Democratic Progressive Party authorities deliberately hyped up the so-called military threat from the mainland and exaggerated the tense atmosphere, all for the purpose of seeking electoral benefits.
Meanwhile, Taiwan on Thursday reported Chinese fighter jets flying over the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan's presidential and parliamentary polls on January 13 are expected to shape the island's relations with Beijing. The former U.S. President Donald Trump has secured his place on the Michigan state ballot for the 2024 presidential primary. On Wednesday, the Michigan Supreme Court blocked an appeal over a lower court's ruling that Donald Trump should be permitted to run for president in the state. This ruling is in contrast to that of the Colorado Supreme Court, which had earlier this month decided to remove Trump from its state primary ballot for engaging in insurrection. The Republicans in Colorado, they have appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court now for against this ruling of Colorado. The New York Times, they have filed a lawsuit against OpenAI and Microsoft, claiming copyright infringement. The newspaper claims its articles were used to train artificial intelligence programs. William Denslow reports from New York.
According to reports, the New York Times held talks earlier this year with Microsoft and OpenAI to try and find an amicable resolution to this dispute. Ultimately, that wasn't proven to be successful. The New York Times moving forward with a lawsuit that's been filed in Manhattan's Federal District Court. The newspaper claims that the two tech firms created products that are taking audiences away from the newspaper. It also alleges that millions of New York Times articles have been used by the tech firms to train automated chatbots. OpenAI claims that the use of articles is protected under fair use. According to investors, OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, is worth over $80 billion. Microsoft, for its part, has invested $13 billion into the AI tech company. Now, this is the first time that a major media company has filed a lawsuit of this kind, but isn't the first time that some people have filed lawsuits with regard to the use of intellectual property and artificial intelligence. A number of authors, as well as comedian Sarah Silverman, have filed lawsuits against AI companies because of the use of their intellectual property, they claim, in the training of artificial intelligence. Now, according to some analysts, these kind of disputes, because this technology is just so new, could wind up being fought in the US Supreme Court. This lawsuit filed by the New York Times doesn't specify how much they're seeking from these tech giants, but according to the lawsuit, the New York Times is seeking billions of dollars in damages. William Denslow in New York, reporting for DD India.
In the face of worldwide struggles with severe weather conditions and erratic storms, the significance of India's meteorological department has grown exponentially. Its pivotal role extends beyond providing timely local updates to actively assisting other nations in dealing with these challenges. Jessica Taneja reports.
Seated at his office desk, Dr. Mrityunjay Mahapatra, the Director General of India's Met Department, diligently oversees weather forecast, warnings and advisories. With the IMD's pivotal role in predicting natural disasters like cyclones, Dr. Mahapatra plays a crucial part in coordinating with disaster management authorities, not only within India, but also in neighbouring countries. In May of this year, the Indian Met Department's Cyclone Mocha forecast played a crucial role in prompting countries such as Bangladesh and Myanmar to heighten their Army, Navy and Coast Guard readiness, anticipating potential impact.
The red line is the forecast track of the cyclone Mocha, which crossed Myanmar and adjoining Bangladesh coast in the summer season of 2023. Its forecast was provided 5 days in advance, as you can see from the red line. As we predicted, the black line, which is the actual track of the cyclone, shows that the forecast was highly accurate.
Not only this, the IMD also collaborates with regional groups of countries like SAARC and BIMSTEC, sharing critical climate hazard information and early warnings. Moreover, through the Global Coalition of Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, in partnership with the IMD, initiatives are underway to develop resilient solutions for housing, communication, power supply and transportation for worldwide application, both within India and beyond. In its 150 years of existence, the Indian Met Department has come a long way since. From mere recording temperatures and air pressure to being a well-equipped meteorological center for entire South Asia. In fact, the national weather forecasting systems here not only help predict erratic weather conditions, but also storms and cyclones that could affect a lot of people. And this helps the authorities plan things a little better in advance. Despite continuous upgrades to ground-based weather stations and radars, Dr. Mrityunjay acknowledges occasional challenges faced by the IMD, particularly due to the absence of long-term climatological data from the Himalayan regions and the oceans.
Especially the Himalayan region or data sparse region. We take the observation with the help of the satellites every half an hour. But the hill peaks are so dense that you cannot capture the mesoscale or the microscale extremely weather events like thunderstorms or cloudbursts, etc., with the help of the satellite. You need, therefore, very dense network of the radar and automated weather stations, etc. Towards this direction, over the western Himalayan region, we have put off 10 radars so far. And in northeastern Himalayan region, we are going to put off 8 radars.
Moving forward, the Met Department aims to strengthen the observational network on land and the seas, improve the data inflow, and also eventually use it to run weather and climate models for deriving climate predictions. And this transformative process is expected to unfold gradually. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. An aeroplane made a bumpy landing at Heathrow Airport in London on Wednesday as the storm Gerrit caused heavy winds to batter parts of the UK. The storm caused travel disruption and damaged houses and cars in some places, and emergency services also working to clear the affected areas. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, in response to a potential provocation from North Korea, visited a frontline military unit on Thursday and called for an immediate and decisive response. During the visit, President Yoon urged the troops to swiftly neutralize any provocations. Chinese smartphone maker Xiaomi unveiled its first electric vehicle and announced that it will be aiming to become one of the world's top 5 automakers. Price of the electric vehicle is yet to be announced. Over 42,000 people lost their lives in gun violence and shooting incidents in the United States this year, that's 2023. As per the latest data released on a national website, the US ranks first in the world in terms of both individual gun ownership and cases of mass shooting incidents. And still to come here on DD India News Hour, we'll be discussing India-Bangladesh ties in light of the Awami League manifesto. Prime Minister Modi will be visiting Ayodhya on the 30th of December. An e-commerce exports handbook for MSMEs has been unveiled.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no? Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analyzing.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
You're watching DD India News Hour. My name is Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. The death sentence of 8 Indians has been commuted by a Qatari court in the Dehra global case. The detailed judgment is awaited. India and Russia signed a protocol on consultations for the next 4 years. The Russian President Vladimir Putin invites Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Russia. Mexico and the US agree to keep the border crossings and rail crossings open and normalize the situation. Well, going back to our top story, which is about India-Bangladesh ties in the light of the Awami League, issuing their manifesto. We are joined by Pinak Ranjan Chakrabarti, who is the former Indian ambassador to Bangladesh and the former Secretary, Economic Relations. He's joining us from New Delhi, in fact. Thank you very much, Ambassador Chakrabarti. So how do you view this, the Awami League's manifesto in terms of foreign policy promises?
Well, I think it's, well, I'm not surprised that they have laid out certain guidelines and certain objectives, which is what manifestos tend to do in any case. And I think they have laid down the various parameters of the bilateral relationship, connectivity and all kinds of things, including water sharing, which is a contested issue in our bilateral ties. I think the manifesto clearly reflects the growing ties, bilateral ties with Bangladesh, and the connectivity and other issues,
yes,
energy cooperation, for example, that have created a whole web of ties. A pipeline, for example, carrying fuel, etc. Whole web of ties that has brought the two countries close together and has contributed. I think what is worth noting is that it has contributed to the fact that trade has gone up to $18 billion despite the setback that we have had on COVID.
Yes.
So I think that this is a good story that the manifesto really reflects.
Indeed, and do you see Bangladesh emerging, as a South Asian miracle, economic miracle that is? And how vital is this connectivity that you're talking about? Because it's developed both within Bangladesh and also to India's northeast, and this is all helping the entire region economically.
Well, if you take the whole eastern region, then the connectivity and economic cooperation with Bangladesh helps the whole region, particularly our northeastern states, which are generally felt to be cut off from various other main cities, etc. So Bangladesh is providing those facilities, connectivity, etc., for which Bangladesh itself stands to gain a lot, because Bangladeshi exports to these states will increase, and facilitating the connectivity that is facilitating such exports are most welcome. And I don't think that there should be any doubt about how these connectivities are going to help and facilitate and reduce the cost of transportation in trade, for example, which is a major factor in bilateral ties.
Indeed, when we talk about connectivity, we also need to talk about, the links to the sea. How important are these links to Bangladesh ports, in fact, for landlocked states of the northeast?
Well, there are accesses, and Bangladesh is providing access to Mongla and Chittagong ports, through which goods can be taken through multimodal routes into Tripura and other northeastern states. Chittagong, for example, is a very major port, the largest port in Bangladesh, and Chittagong is being connected to Tripura, in southern Tripura via Sabroom. And I think that corridor is going to provide a lot of opportunities for traders, exports, imports, both actually. And so this is very important because, one must remember that this was once an integrated region without boundaries, without borders, and hence to recreate some of those connectivities, which I think we have successfully done for at least part of the way. I think this is something very, very important, and both sides stand to gain by it through transit and transshipment and other facilities that both countries are providing to each other. For example, Bangladesh can now transit and transship goods to Nepal via India. So I think these are mutually beneficial, projects that we should have done it years and years ago.
Absolutely. Indeed, Ambassador Chakrabarti, let's also look at the importance of the Awami League's stance in the fight against terrorism. They've been very clear in this manifesto. Also a clear position that they've taken on separatist forces. This is a position that, India should definitely welcome, I suppose.
Yes, that was one of the key factors in building trust between the two countries. And Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been categorical, and she understands that terrorism is going to hurt Bangladesh very, very badly. And I think she has taken some decisive steps in curbing those elements who are determined to cause problems. So this is a very important factor in bilateral ties. And I think this needs to be built upon, and we are indeed building upon it through intelligence exchanges, exchange of information, so to curb these elements who are bent on disturbing. And they have outside support. They have external support from inimical countries. So that is also an important factor.
Indeed. And also, the people-to-people links, they have greatly helped. After all, culturally, there's so much that we share. Clearly, a pro-India policy is definitely in Bangladesh's national interest. But this is an election. So do you see that, the people feel the same way as the Awami League?
Well, if you go by empirical figures, empirical data of people wanting to come to India for various issues, all kinds of things, tourism, medical, meeting relatives, and it's increasing by the day. So the people are basically, showing the way that they do want to come to India. They do want closer relationship with India. Whereas the political dispensation in Bangladesh, that is something we cannot really, tell the people of Bangladesh, hey, look, this is good for you and this is bad for you. It's for them to decide. I think that we are very clear that it is for them to decide. But we are prepared to take those two steps forward and build closer ties. And we have made that very clear from time to time.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Pinakaranjan Chakrabarti. Thank you for enlightening us on India-Bangladesh ties in the light of the Awami League manifesto. Now, as part of compliance action against the Offshore Entities Financial Intelligence Unit India, FIU IND, what have they done? They've issued compliance show cause notices to 9 offshore virtual digital assets service providers. under Section 13 of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act of 2002. These firms are Binance, Qcoin, Huobi, Kraken, Gate.io, Bittrex, Bits, AMP, Mexi Global, Bitfinex, Financial Intelligence Unit India. They have written to the Indian Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology to block the URLs of these 9 entities operating illegally without complying with the provisions of PML Act in India. Now, Ajay Mishra joins us on the phone to demystify some of this for us. Ajay, what is this all about?
Big, crackdown on virtual assets companies operating from outside India without any registration under PMLA Act. This is a big for those who are dealing with any kind of transactions linked with these 9 companies. Remember, these 9 companies are, they are registered in Cayman Islands, New York, Singapore, Seychelles, Virgin Islands, and these territories have, very, very sophisticated and flexible tax laws, and they do not require the transactions to be reported to any third country. But India have shown them, a mirror that without, registering under the PMLA Act, all the 9 companies have been barred, you can say, from this point in time, because the Ministry of Electronics have been directed to block the URLs, and once the URLs are blocked, nobody would be able to trade in these companies' assets, and that's why we can say that it's a big crackdown on these 9 virtual assets companies, and big blow for investors who are illegally operating in these 9 virtual assets companies, commonly known as crypto assets companies.
Indeed. So it's a big blow for anyone who is already invested with these companies. You're saying they've lost their money.
Well, absolutely. If the URL is going to be blocked, from where they will going to recover the money, I'm not very sure, without because they will not be able to access the systems of these 9 companies through which they are transferring their returns to the respective investors. So it's a big blow for the investors. I have no idea from where they are going to recover money, from where they are going to transact or settle down the investments they have already done. The things are still in limbo, but we understand that it will take some more time for the ministry to act, and that might be some room for the investors to act hastily. But I think it's a big blow, and this decision has just come from the Ministry of Finance that it's a major crackdown on these virtual assets companies.
Thanks very much, Ajay Mishra, for putting that into context for us. Now, moving on, India's Minister of Commerce and Industry, Piyush Goyal, on Thursday unveiled an e-commerce exports handbook for MSMEs. It's designed to function as a comprehensive resource for aspiring entrepreneurs seeking to engage in export activities through the e-commerce avenues. With a strong digital infrastructure and supportive policies, India is well placed to tap into the global market. In alignment with this prospect, India's Foreign Trade Policy 2023 explicitly aims to bolster cross-border e-commerce exports.
E-commerce exports handbook for MSMEs, which will be a one-stop shop giving the what, where, when and how to promote exports through e-commerce. This was part of our Foreign Trade Policy 2023 ambitious target to increase merchandise exports to $1 trillion by 2030.
The Indian Prime Minister will be visiting Ayodhya on the 30th of December. During his visit there, Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of multiple development projects. Preparations are in full swing also for the consecration ceremony of the Ram Lalla, and offline as well as online booking for the Aarti Pass began at the Ayodhya Ram Temple.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Ayodhya on 30th of December. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate the redeveloped Ayodhya railway station and flag off the new Amrit Bharat trains and Vande Bharat trains. The Prime Minister will also inaugurate the newly built Ayodhya airport, and after that he will also dedicate several other railway projects to the nation. These include projects worth about 11,100 crore rupees for development of Ayodhya and its surrounding areas, and projects worth about 4,600 crore rupees related to other projects across Uttar Pradesh. Preparations are underway in full swing for the consecration ceremony of Ram Lala. Offline and online booking for obtaining Aarti Pass have already begun at the Ayodhya Ram Temple. Currently, only 30 people are allowed to attend Aarti with a pass. This number could be increased as per the number of devotees. The pass for the Aarti can be obtained by producing government-issued ID cards.
Every day, 3 Aartis take place in the temple. People with issued pass can only attend the Aarti. Only 30 people are allowed to attend one Aarti. The number may be increased or decreased in the future. Online facility for Aarti has also started.
With every state contributing in devoting something special in honor of Lord Ram and this special day, Tamil Nadu is sending 42 large bells that will adorn the Ram temple. These bells are on their way to Ayodhya from Bengaluru after a special puja ceremony. Further, the artisans from Varanasi who are making the wooden models of Ram temple and Ram Darbar express their happiness on receiving a bulk order of 1 lakh such models. They are working day and night to complete these orders.
We are really happy we got to make these models, and in future also we will get the opportunity.
The consecration ceremony of Ram Lala at the majestic new Ram temple will commence on January 16th and conclude on January 22nd, 2024. Preparations are almost complete for the grand ceremony. No wonder the Ram temple in the holy city of Ayodhya is a symbol of tradition meeting technology.
India's Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra is a journey being undertaken across the country. The aim is to attain saturation of flagship schemes of the Government of India by ensuring that these schemes, the benefits of them, actually reach all the targeted beneficiaries in a time-bound manner. It's a story of accountability. And the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra has reached the districts now of Bageshwar in the North Indian state of Uttarakhand. The Yatra was welcomed with tremendous enthusiasm and also active participation from the local communities. The vans, they were at the centers of the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, and they've emerged as a dynamic tool. This is as the Yatra continues to reach different destinations and disseminate essential information on various government schemes. Let's now look at other stories making the news. India's All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi issued guidelines for suspected COVID-19 or positive cases that need to be reported to hospitals following the sudden surge in cases of the coronavirus in the country. India's ISRO chairman, S. Somnath, says that after the success of Chandrayaan-3, there is a huge demand about what is next for ISRO in the coming 25 years. Addressing the annual Tech Fest at IIT Bombay, Somnath said that India aims to build space stations, a space station, also send human beings to the moon, and to create moon-based economic activity in space. The pilgrimage to the holy cave shrine of Vaishno Devi in Jammu and Kashmir in India has set a new record this year, witnessing the arrival of nearly 9.6 million pilgrims, marking the highest in the past 10 years. At least 12 passengers were killed and 14 injured after a bus collided with a truck and caught fire at Gunna, which is a town in the central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. The Prime Minister of India, Modi, and the President of India, Draupadi Murmu, condoled the loss of lives in this bus accident, and they announced financial support to the near and dear ones of the deceased as well as the injured. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Alcaraz gets the better of Djokovic. Man City beats Everton. And more from the world of cricket as we bid 2023 farewell.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no? Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analysis.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. And now let's get you all the sports news. Well, we start with the Boxing Day Test match between Australia and Pakistan, and Australia took a lead of 241 runs in the second innings, having scored 187 runs for the loss of 6 wickets at stumps on day 3 at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Steve Smith scored 50 and Mitchell Marsh smashed 96 runs. Earlier, Pat Cummins took 5 wickets, while Nathan Lyon took 4 to dismiss Pakistan for 264 in their first innings. Pakistan, resuming their first innings at 194 for 6, could only add 70 runs on day 3. Rizwan departed after contributing 42 runs, and Jamal remained unbeaten with a valuable 33. Australia had scored 318 runs in their first innings. Carlos Alcaraz came back from a set down to beat world number 1 Novak Djokovic 4-6, 6-4, 6-4 in a hard-fought exhibition match at Riyadh. Alcaraz started strong by breaking the Serb's serve in the opening game. However, Djokovic answered back with 2 breaks of his own to take the opening set 6-4. The Spaniard then started the second by breaking Djokovic once again, and he then held on to his serve to secure the second set 6-4, forcing a deciding third set. In the third set, it was an epic back-and-forth battle, and Alcaraz got the better by getting a break in the third game. And then Djokovic, in fact, leveled once again in the sixth, but a string of errors by Djokovic forced the world number 2 to take the upper hand when he secured the deciding break to go 5-4 up, and the match was a preview, in fact, what people think might happen at the Australian Open as these two great players gear up for the 2024 season. Manchester.
He's one of the leaders of the sport today, and definitely he's going to carry this game in the future years to come. In the next 10-15 years, we're going to see a lot of him. So tennis is in good hands.
As you said, you know, I grew up watching him winning the big tournaments, and you know, I always dream about being in this position, playing against him face to face, and you know, I'm really happy to be able to do that, and hopefully keep going. You know, as I said many times, and himself said as well, he seems like he's 20. So we are gonna share the court more than once. So it's amazing.
Well, Manchester City climbed back into the Premier League's top 4 as the second half goals by Phil Foden, Julian Alvarez and Bernardo Silva sealed a comeback 3-1 win at Everton. Everton took the lead against the run of play through Jack Harrison's close-range finish in the 29th minute, but Foden drilled in a superb low shot after 53 minutes, and Alvarez Alvarez converted a penalty after a handball by Onama. And Silva then wrapped up the points 4 minutes from time with a sublime finish after a mistake by Everton keeper Jordan Pickford. Champion City, they now move ahead of Tottenham Hotspur into the 4th place with 34 points from 18 games, 5 behind the leaders Liverpool, having played a game less in other matches. A penalty from substitute Noni Madueke earned Chelsea a hard-fought 2-1 home victory over Crystal Palace. Hwang Hee-chan scored twice to lead Wolverhampton Wanderers to a 4-1 over Brentford in the clash that featured 4 goals in the opening half. Well, a lot happened in the world of cricket in the year 2023, from the West Indies failing to qualify for the World Cup for the first time to India's heartbreak in the showpiece event. We take a look at the year gone by in cricket.
Year 2023 can best be described as a tectonic year with radical changes for women's cricket in India. The year that started with the inaugural T20 World Cup in South Africa ended with 2 back-to-back tests, and the inaugural edition of Women's Premier League in India put women on the centre stage in world cricket. More audience per match, more eyeballs on the women's game, and more new faces followed. After that watershed moment, the bilateral series took over. In the Women's Ashes series, the one-off test saw the result after 8 years when Australia defeated England. The boards and other stakeholders are now understanding the value of standing behind the women's game. Moving to the men's world of cricket, India, high on that big win in the Asia Cup, won 10 matches on the trot in the World Cup they hosted, but were unable to make it count in the final that mattered most in the Narendra Modi Cricket Stadium. It started with the World Test Championship and World Cup final, Australia on both occasions getting the better of India in white and colour clothing. Pat Cummins leading the Aussies to victory from the brink of exit is the standout performance of the year. England failed to defend the World Cup but managed to salvage pride, bouncing back from 0-2 to 2-2 in the Ashes series. Asian neighbours Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Afghanistan played well in patches but were not consistent in the year. West Indies caused the biggest surprise by failing to qualify for the World Cup for the first time. New Zealand once again continued to shine, and though they failed to reach the final in the World Cup, the Kane Williamson-led team walk into 2024 with hope and faith to bounce back stronger. Cricketainment or IPL in India saw Chennai get the better of Gujarat in the final. MS Dhoni-led team got the better of Hardik Pandya-led team in the final for their 5th crown. The year 2024 has the T20 World Cup being played in the US and West Indies island. Cricket getting an Olympic debut has pushed uncharted territories open for the sport, and expanding horizons is just the right beginning for the gentleman's game.
Well, we now take you to the Indian hill town of Shimla, where it hosted, in fact, a dog show on Thursday. The event saw the participation of dogs of various breeds, which walked the ramp along with their owners. And the breeds that participated in this show included Huskies, German Shepherds, Beagles, and many more. The event attracted many spectators, including tourists. Well, and finally, before we end, let me just tell you an update on the cricket match between India and South Africa. South Africa has won that test match by an innings and 32 runs. India were bowled out in the second innings for 131. Virat Kohli stood strong, hit a 76, but the rest of the Indian batters didn't give him any company. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.